right. Welcome to Dear Romance Writer. We're three romance writers who always deliver happily ever afters, actually four this time today. Also offer questionable advice for all of your relationship work and life problems. I am Avery Flynn.
I'm Roan Parrish.
And I'm Zio Axelrod. We are so excited to have Audrey Carlan here with us this week. Audrey is a #1 New York Times, USA Today, and Wall Street Journal bestselling author. Her books have been translated into over 30 languages across the globe. Audrey, please tell us more about yourself.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for having me. I am obviously at home, like all of you, us authors, always stuck at home, writing away by ourselves. So this is really a treat to be here, be with friends, with peers, and to talk about life, love, and books. I'm just really excited about participating today.
Awesome. We're so happy you're here.
Yes.
So nice to have you here. Buds, it's been a week.
Yeah.
I feel like it's been a week every week, but I feel like it's been a particular week. And I was talking to my sister earlier and she was like, oh, how's it going? And I've had edits that I've been trying to work on. And usually I love edits. I really enjoy that.
What's wrong with you? You love edits too.
I love edits.
You guys will just sit there. I sit at my screen and flip it off for like 75% of the book. And then I go back and go, oh God, they were right. Fuck, I hate that.
That's
right, anyways, funny. I interrupted. I was so shocked.
No, you're fine. I love edits because I feel like I love writing, obviously, but then like editing, I feel like is my chance to be like, oh yeah, past me totally knew what she was talking about there. Oh, past me had no idea what was going to happen. So I can just like retcon that really quick. It's like, I don't know. I feel godly. Anyway, usually I'm into edits. But for some reason, my brain was non-functional for like 2 weeks. And I was talking to my sister and she was like, oh yeah, you're not the first person who said that. I've actually had several coworkers, several friends all be like, something was going on this week. So
I think it was the moon. I'm not kidding. I think it was the moon, you guys, for real. Yeah. It was like in some kind of retrograde that was like, I don't know if you guys, I'm not super into it, but I am into it. Mm-hmm. If you go outside and look at night, no joke, you can see Jupiter and Saturn straight up in the sky, visible with the naked eye. And I'm thinking back, I'm 42. You guys are younger than me, but I'm 42. And I was like, when I was a kid, you didn't get to see Jupiter with your eyes.
Right.
Thing. Like, we're either getting closer to these planets or there's
oh my God,
what is happening? Yeah.
I know. I but I do with the astrological stuff. It's some kind of retrograde.
Yeah.
Something. Well, didn't we? There was like a shower. All kinds of stuff was happening.
Crazy.
That's my life tip. It's the moon.
It's the moon.
It's the moon. Like blame the moon.
I really like the website is mercuryinretrograde.com where you can look it up, and when it is, it'll be like, yes, blame everything on Mercury, and when it's not, it'll just be like, so sorry, you fucked yourself, it's all your fault.
It wasn't the moon.
I didn't check, but there was some kind of like pall cast over the week, so it's been a particular week, and I am so excited that Halloween's a coming. I go on vacation on Saturday for like a much needed vacay. So I don't know, how are you all doing in this week that apparently broke my brain?
Yeah, this episode will air after Halloween, but for those of you listening, we're
taunting you.
We're all hoping for a wonderful Halloween because last year was so non-existent.
Like
it didn't happen. And it's it's my favorite holiday. I think it's Roan's favorite holiday. So like we're like, okay, Halloween. I got candy. I may have gone a little bit overboard buying the candy. My husband looked at the table where I had the candies in the dining room table and he was like, wow, okay. And I was like, because last year, we got maybe 15 kids came through, and we had like the little claw.
That's called planning ahead for future snacking.
I full on bought 400 full-size candy bars.
Oh my gosh, you got the full size. So you're gonna have all the
house. Oh my God, you're that house.
You're that house.
That is awesome. I was like, baby,
that's
I'm
awesome.
Going bougie. I am literally gonna stand out there with my mask on and be like, full size over here. Come to my house.
Right.
Come to my
house. Because I want to see every outfit, but I'm honestly kind of scared a bunch of the outfits are gonna be Squid Game. And I
they are.
I'm gonna be scared.
They are going to be Squid Game, which I haven't
They
watched
are.
yet, but I feel like I have because
Oh,
everything is about that or Ted Lasso. And I've seen Ted Lasso and love it, but I have not watched Squid Game yet. So.
You know what? If
All right,
your
Squid Game is
mental
hard,
space
but
is
it's
not
good.
don't watch it. Like
Yeah.
you
I'll
need
watch
to be
it.
prepared to be experienced.
I think you'll like it.
Okay.
I think you'll
it's
like
good.
it.
It's thrilling, but it's got that whole like social experiment where
Okay.
you're truly feeling as though you're watching like death happen, shock value stuff that actually makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
It looks great.
Thrilling, suspenseful, but it's also very, very violent. So
It really is. But it does have a great twist.
It does.
Because usually you're like, you see the twist coming.
Yeah.
This one you don't, and you're gonna be so mad. I won't spoil it for you because I love you, but I was pissed.
I was happy.
Not a
I was
little
like,
bit. I was angry. I was like, Karen, I was like, let me talk to the manager, mad. That's how mad I was.
I watched Midnight Mass. I just finished Midnight Mass, which I had been wanting to watch.
Need to watch that.
Roan was like, watch it, and I loved it. But I went into it completely blind. I had no idea what it was about, and I figured it out about 2 episodes in. And I still was like, oh my God, this is brilliant. I can't wait to see how he does this. So like sometimes, even if you figure out the twist early, if they, if it's well done, I'm cool with it. So hopefully it's like that I won't be Avery mad.
I also figured out the twist of Midnight Mass early, and it made it so delicious.
Yes.
Because I didn't even care. I was just like, so well done.
I was like, ooh, how is he gonna do this? Yeah, it's really good. It's really, really good.
That is.
You know what else is really good? You guys might want to consider is that 9 Perfect Strangers.
Oh yeah, I watched that. That went bonkers off the track like the last 2 episodes, but I still had to watch all the way to the end because I had to know what happened.
I felt so connected to
it's on my list.
Melissa's character, the author.
People that I'm like, I don't like, but I still watched it. And
I do want to watch.
McCarthy's fabulous.
She's so good in everything. Even if the movie's not good, she's good. She's just
it is. Nicole Kidman is like this ethereal, effervescent goddess, like always. But she also has this kind of like questionable side to her, which is
She's good at those characters. She's really good.
She is.
But I keep forgetting to tell you guys, and you probably have watched it already because it's been on forever. But Only Murders in the Building.
I still have not watched it. No.
Have you watched it, Roan?
No, not yet.
For people who listen to murder podcasts, you really need to watch that show.
I know.
It is like made for you. And it's one of those trios that like I never knew I needed Martin Short, Steve Martin, and Selena Gomez together, but now I do. Like they're so good together. Anyway.
Is it funny?
It is funny. It's funny, but it's dark. And like the cameos alone are worth it. Just
everybody jumped out of the pandemic and is like, we're writing dark everything.
Yeah.
Everybody was sad for 18 months writing all the sad stuff.
Seriously.
And now we're murderish.
Yeah.
So now we're all murderish. Yeah.
Yeah. We're layers. We contain a multitude.
It's fine.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Let's get to our letter for this week because it's a good one. And I can't wait to hear what you guys think of it. We pulled this one from Elle magazine, so this is not one that came to us, although we really love answering your letters, so please write to us or DM us or however you want to reach us. We cannot wait to hear from you. This one says, Dear E. Jean, who I guess is the person answering this, what's the best way to move past rejection, whether it's job rejection or romantic rejection? The conventional wisdom is to remain resolute and try again, but I've been doing that with no luck. What should I do? Signed, Human Repellent. Human repellent.
Sis, I want to hug you.
Yeah, right.
Hug is what we do.
Oh my God, that breaks my heart.
Yeah.
I mean,
rejection is tough,
really
and especially if it feels like it's always happening. If if you feel like all you ever get is rejected, then it's easy to internalize all of that and make it, something's wrong with you.
Well, I think as authors, we've all had a lot of rejection in our life.
Right.
So,
yeah.
I mean, we're not, adverse to feeling those horrifying feelings either. But I mean, the way that I personally deal with work rejection specifically is I have that whole, my own success is my own revenge against any rejection. So
like that.
I like anything that I do that is a win and like, oh, I made a #1 or I'm in the top 100 or whatever goal that you want to meet, if you get anywhere near those things, celebrate that achievement, put it out there. I say all the time, oh my God, look at what I can do. Because honestly, I'm alone. And if I don't see people and they don't give a crap, I mean, we all need that little bit of you know, go girl from our friends. And it sounds like this one needs it too. And seriously, sis, you are not human repellent. I can't, like, I've got chills. I'm so sad for her. I would totally hug you right now.
I love the idea of celebrating every little milestone too, no matter what it is. And you know, what really bugs me, especially in the author world, is you know, you have this like outpouring of goodwill towards someone who reaches one of their milestones. And then there's that small corner, that little corner that's like, oh, well, they think they're so and so. And you're like, or why are they bragging? Why are they whatever? And it's like, really? Like, you have so much like disdain for someone else's success that you're
those
just
people
gonna
are never gonna get I
don't understand it.
They're never gonna be happy.
The negativity is unnecessary, completely unnecessary.
It's important to lift one another up no matter what. Like, right. You know, because if you're not lifting a sister up, you're stepping on her back. I don't believe in it.
Well, and I think, you know, so I have a mentee this year and she's amazing and I love her, but we actually talked about, because she's getting ready to go out and query, right? She's unpublished, she's getting ready to go out and query. And so I'm prepping her because, you know, I'm prepping her about the fact that sometimes rejection is rejection. Sometimes rejection is try again. And that's kind of what I get from this is, you know, the conventional wisdom is to stay resolute and try again. Sometimes it's try again. Sometimes it's this is not it. Sometimes it's this is not a good fit. So trying to figure out the difference between those two forms of rejection, whether it's romantic or friendship or work, is difficult. You know, absolutely. But I think my advice whenever you're dealing with rejection, I love the, you know, success is its best revenge, because I am a Virgo and so I like that. But this is going to be our astrology episode. But really with rejection, I think you do have to take a step back. I think it's really important to go pout. I do not say that like as derogatory at all. I pout all the time. Go pout, be mad, have your glass of wine, beer, shots of tequila, you know, naked running through the neighborhood, whatever it is, let all that shit out.
Privately.
Privately.
Or with
not
your
on
best
Twitter.
phone.
Not on Twitter. Not on
Twitter.
Goodreads. Not on
but,
Facebook.
Please. But then go and take a look at it with a little bit of a cooler head to try and figure out which type of rejection is this, number one. Number two, figuring out, does this rejection matter to me?
Right.
Some people aren't going to like you. Some people aren't going to like your books. Some people are going to like your books, but aren't going to like that book. You know, some people are never going to like you, period. And there's nothing you can do about that. So you have to decide if that's going to matter to you. That's easier said than done. But
sometimes
I think,
rejection is projection.
And I think you got to look at that as well, or send out a press release.
I totally agree.
Sorry.
I think that for me, the real big difference is figuring out, I love what you said, Avery, about like figuring out which kind of rejection it is. And I think that for me, it's about figuring out, is the rejection hurting me because it's just like a block to moving forward? Like, I want to publish this book, someone rejected it. That means that I don't get to have the thing that I want. That's a super normal, like, it happens to everyone, keep calm and carry on style rejection, whatever. The other kind of rejection is, am I sad about this rejection because actually it feels like I'm rejecting myself. Like the rejection of other people is actually the rejection of self. Because what I found is that rejections that I don't agree with don't hurt me at all. So like, say you go out on a date with someone, I don't like them and I don't want another date with them, and they don't like me and they don't want another date with me. I'm not made sad by that at all, because I think I'm great and I didn't like them anyway. So like, whatever. Or a rejection where I'm like, I think this book is awesome. So like, I wrote a book proposal that was for this series of books, and the one that I had written the sample for was this like very interesting, complicated female musician, and nobody wanted it. It got rejected by like 5 publishers, and their reasons I just didn't agree with. Like, they didn't like her, they thought that she was too angry, they thought that she was unrelatable, whatever. And it didn't hurt. It was frustrating because I wanted to write the book, but it didn't hurt because I thought they were wrong.
Mhm.
But if I had deep down believed it, like if deep down as I was writing, I'd been like, this is a character who is really angry and dark, and I identify with her. And so when people reject this book proposal because they don't like the character, what they're actually doing is rejecting me
That's
for
different.
parts that I've rejected in myself. That's when it hurts.
Yeah.
And I think that the best like strategy for me of dealing with rejection.
Oh wait, hold
like
on just a second, Roan, because I wrote.
You know,
Roan.
that's just.
Oh no! Hey, hold on just a second. Everybody, jazz hands for me. So hopefully, all right. You're glitching really, really bad.
Damn it!
Yeah. So I didn't want to lose what you were gonna say. So let's give it a second to like catch up.
To clear up. Yeah.
Yeah, to clear up, and then okay. Ooh, that was weird. You like went super fast, like a horror movie. Yeah,
she's an alien. Like, we all saw it.
That was
crazy. She was too good to be human.
She's a computer AI.
I knew she was too good to be human. I knew it.
There's a glitch in the Matrix.
Yes, that's exactly what it was. Okay, so stop moving around and get back to what it was, what your best option was. That's where we left you off. Oh, yeah. So everybody jazz hands again so I know where to cut.
Thank you for stopping me, Avery. Yeah, so my best, what I do for myself that works best is when I feel that pang that we all get when we get rejection, like no matter whether it's whichever of these it's going to turn out to be, it's still natural to have like that initial pang of disappointment or whatever it is. I like to look at that and just like ask myself a bunch of questions, like questions about the kind of rejection that it is, where I just like keep asking, and what does that mean? So like, if I am rejected because somebody doesn't invite me to a party, like that's how I feel. I ask myself like, and why does that matter? I'm like, well, because it means that they don't like me. And why? What does that mean? It means...
So it's like a decision tree. It's like a decision tree of pain.
Exactly.
Of pain, of rejection.
So why is this happening? And do I give a shit? Basically, it's like a two-part.
You got to decide. You got to decide how you feel about each level.
Yeah, because there are some of those where what you'll realize is that you don't really care. Yeah. You weren't invested in the thing anyway. You just thought it there. And then there are other things that what you uncover is like the rejection hurt you not because you cared so much about the book or the date or the promotion, but because you believe that that rejection means something essential about yourself that you also believe. Mm-hmm. And that's why it hurts. You know?
I think you just hit it right there, because we have like superficial rejections, like the ones that don't bother you. And then you have the rejections that feel as a rejection of self, as you said. So like if you see yourself as X, and I think that's why personal rejections are so cutting, you know, whether it's, you know, I don't know, maybe it's just me, that friendship you thought was real, but wasn't. You know, that relationship you thought was going to be forever.
You thought there was a connection, but they don't. And so you're like,
and
what did I do? Yeah.
Or even that one where you're like, where it is like that, you know, if you were writing a character, that would be their dark moment, aha, of realizing, hey, I always thought I was person X, but it turns out I'm actually person Y. And that messes with my entire way that I see myself. Those are devastating rejections. I think work rejections as well can be really bad. I mean, who here didn't get rejected 1,000,001 times, either querying or with book ideas or with deals, like for whatever it may be, or even just, you know, you get one of those reviews, like I'm a freak, I read all of my reviews. but you get one of those reviews where it's not just an I hated this book and it's kind of funny. It's like, oh my God, I'm going to burn this person down for even thinking to write this. You know, what kind of loser even comes up with this? You know, and again, you're just like, oh. So I think in a way, rejection is like a muscle, or the ability to deal with rejection is a muscle. You know, you just got to keep working it and dealing with it, and it gets easier.
We're not
normal. Yes,
it's not our responsibility to be okay with someone else's perception of us. So
right there,
we can't accept that, you know, it's not our responsibility. Billie Eilish just speaks of it in her brand new album, how your perception of me is not my responsibility.
Yeah.
And it's not. They're allowed to have whatever they want to think. Every person is allowed to have their opinions. Everybody's got them. And if they want to be assholes and hurt you in the process, then that's on their karma and their problem. It's not your responsibility to believe who you are is based on what they see in you.
Right.
Yeah, I think like what Avery was saying and Roan, especially in the author community and even in the music world, where my other world, creatives in general, we all have this thing which we now call imposter syndrome. A lot of people have this thing where you feel like a fraud in whatever you're doing. And so when you get a rejection letter, when you get a bad review, that's just validation of that fraud that you thought you were. You know what I mean? So that's another thing that we have to examine. Like, why is this affecting me? Why is that 1-star review out of like all the 5 and 4-star and 3-star reviews I've gotten? Why is that 1-star review getting me so badly? It's because it just validates everything you thought already about yourself. No matter what, all the good, the positive feedback you got, that negative feedback hangs on like a toenail. You know what I mean? Like it's just there. And so I think that's something that a lot of creatives have to deal with. You know, I do, you know.
Well, I mean, who doesn't suffer from imposter syndrome in this type of industry? I mean, every time I have a book do well, I can't believe it did well. Like, it's a shock. And then when it doesn't do well, I'm like, obviously. You know?
Right. Yeah.
You're like, obviously, you know, when you're a loser, that's what's going to happen. Talk nice to yourself, Audrey.
Every time I get any kind of accolade or some kind of surprising, like, oh my God, I love this, I'm always like, what, really? That's so cool.
Yeah. Someone on Facebook the other day was like, stop doing that. What do they call it? It wasn't humble brag, because that's a whole totally different thing. But they were like, stop.
You down talk yourself.
When you down talk yourself, but it's this phrase that I've used, and I don't know if you guys have used it. When you get a deal or something happens, you're like, well, this happened, and then you put like the good thing that happened, like it's a fluke or some sort of like accident, you know. And they were like, please stop doing this, because all you're doing is saying that you don't deserve this thing that happened. You know what I mean? Like, oh, oops, this thing happened. I don't know how. You know what I mean? Not all the hard work you put in.
People are being too hard on each other. They should just be excited in general for their friend.
Yeah, totally. But it was an interesting point. And I was like, I never thought of it as part of the sort of imposter syndrome. Yeah. As if you're like, oh, this thing happened, I have no idea, that I don't deserve it. That's not, you know.
Right. So I want to know, what is the one thing that you guys do that is somewhat healthy when you are rejected?
I never get rejected. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. What is your learned healthy response to being rejected?
Okay, I allow myself a day or two to wallow in it, to really be sad, to mourn that experience and to kind of feel down, and then I lick my wounds and I come out fighting. I just give myself that time to appreciate that moment of negativity and be like, you know what, this is what it is. I can't change it. It happened. It is. Yeah. And then how am I going to deal with it? How am I going to come out of it? I'll binge on some Netflix. I might have some Taco Bell, bottle of wine, you know, whatever. Yeah. And then the next day I'm like, you know what? I gave it that day. I gave it my sadness for that day.
That's the important part.
Today, brand new start over.
It's important to allow yourself to feel those feelings, because like the whole, like, try again, get up, dust yourself off. Like, okay, yeah, do that. But first, allow yourself to feel that hurt or feel that pain, and examine it and for what it is, and work your way through it however you need to. And then you move on. Then you move on to the next thing. I think it's important to do that.
There was a horrible thing that I saw on Twitter the other day. And it was, if you intellectualize your feelings, you're still not feeling them. And I was like, screw you. You're not the boss of me. You can't tell me what to do. But that is exactly what you guys are talking about. It's that same thing. It's the giving yourself a defined, okay, obviously I schedule spontaneity. So I'm probably not the best advice here on this, but schedule yourself that time. Give yourself a time slot to actually acknowledge what happened, the rejection, how it impacted you, and then to be able to plan and move forward. I am a big fan of everybody experiencing like getting fired. I think getting fired from a job, well, it sucks, is also a wonderful learning experience because and this would be getting fired from like a job when you're in high school or something like that. Obviously, your mortgage is not on the line.
Yeah.
But getting fired or something like that, that type of big rejection in a safe spot like that helps you learn how to move forward from it. And I think that can be sometimes hard. And if you are a steward, I feel you. I am also a steward. And I think that's why giving yourself that defined period of time to just really feel all of that feeling, and then being able to say, okay, I'm going to move forward now. I think that's important. And sometimes you have to say, sometimes I have to say it out loud because I'm a hardcore steward. All right, I see what I'm doing. I'm going to start spiraling. And all I'm going to think about is that one time in 8th grade when that boy that I loved turned me down, whatever it may be. I'm like, that's going to put me in a bad headspace. So I'm going to move this way. And sometimes a good way to do that also is with physical activity. I'm not talking running or jogging or something like that. I don't do any of that shit. But something, even if it's like, why do you think when people get upset, they clean their house? Right? It is that physical activity that helps take your in whatever chemical reaction your body's having and reroutes it.
It's also about control.
And that's helpful.
You can control your environment, cleaning and organizing.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I think my healthiest version is I remind myself that rejection is not the same as failure, because I think that one of the things I'm a huge fan of failure. I think failure is fantastic. I think that failure is one of the most, to use a my dad phrase, character building experiences. I think that failure is what happens when you're pushing yourself outside your comfort zone, when you're trying things that you're not quite ready for yet, when you take on too much because you are ambitious and excited. Like, I love failure. I think it's fucking fantastic. Rejection sucks because it is something that's done to you. And so it's something that it can shake you out of feeling in control, like Zio was saying, feeling like you get to do the things that you want. It's a stumbling block. It means that the forward momentum that you want and have gets like shut down. And so I try to remind myself, rejection isn't failure because no one's in control of me. And this is my I mean, maybe this isn't that healthy, but to me, all I ever want is to be able to do exactly what I want whenever I want it.
Yeah.
It's like my Veruca Salt.
Me too.
Is that all?
Me too.
That's all. I want a cookie. I want a party. Me. Like my total Veruca Salt moment. And so I'm like, okay, so all that really happened was this thing that I want. Someone was like, I'm not going to give it to you right now. But the I and the now are two variables that have nothing to do with what I've produced, what I want, etc. So I'm not going to give it to you now isn't you did something bad. It's I, other person, I'm not going to give it to you now moment. And sometimes if you just wait 6 months with a different person, they're going to tell you a different answer, or maybe no one's going to want that book and you're going to sit there and you're going to be like, I still think it's awesome, so I'm just going to self-publish it.
Yeah.
And then it's better than your other books, who knows, right? Or it just, so I think that for me it's really about kind of a pep talk to myself of being other people aren't in charge of me or what I think about myself, so this is in the end not terribly meaningful, this rejection.
I think it's important for creatives, authors, whomever, to remember that art is subjective, and like giving your manuscript over to an editor or an agent who doesn't like it doesn't have much to do with your manuscript, or, it has more to do with what their preferences are. So I think people are realizing that, especially in music and publishing, where somebody didn't like it. Okay, I'm just gonna, like you said, self-pub it myself. I'm gonna release my own music, and then you find your audience that way. Because imagine a year ago, if someone had taken a manuscript to one of the big five and said, I have some monster romance for you, they'd be like, what? And now it's selling, like crazy. So
yeah,
it's all subjective anyway.
It's all timing.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you know what? Something that ties in a little bit to this is part of our chat topic here this week, which is the importance of having honey friends who can help you from prompting you to reject you, I guess, or do something dumb.
Or stopping you from,
yeah. For those of you who don't know, an honey friend is somebody who, when you have an idea, you see a particular person, you decide to do something, is somebody in your life who loves you enough to reach out and say, oh, honey, wait, have you thought about this? Or don't do that. Or if you go out and put an entire Twitter thread out there about how you are going to burn this particular author, book, publishing house, whatever it may be, down to the ground, you might want to, I'm not saying don't, just think about it first, right? You need your oh honey friend, and the opposite of that is an oh yes friend.
Yeah, the yes people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So
everyone needs the honey.
Yeah. So
I call them oh honey no.
Oh honey no. Yeah. Do you guys have oh honey friends? And how have they helped save you? And are you anybody's oh honey friend? Because you should be that as well.
I think I'm everybody's oh honey friend.
So it's like think twice.
I definitely think that as authors, we all have, I have an assistant that I tell everything to in my personal life, my business life. She is truly my work wife, soulmate. I believe soulmates come in many forms, and we are supposed to have certain people in our lives, and she's mine, and as well as my husband I've had for 24 years. So it's, you have those relationships. And I think that if you can truly trust someone, that you can share with them, and they will tell you that, oh honey, or oh yeah, that could be the same person. They could be the yes man and the oh honey person at the same time. And then you've got your like editor, someone who's got that symbiotic relationship with you, where they know your voice in your books, but also when you're coming up with something that's a little wacko crazy, they're going to be the ones that are like, I don't think this is right.
Yeah.
So it just depends on, for me, it's like my editor, my assistant, and my agent are probably the, what are you thinking about doing? What? Why? What is that? I don't get it, most of the time. But they can also easily be the same people that are like, that's the best idea you've ever had.
Yeah.
So
I think oh honey friends are amazing cheerleader friends. Yeah. Because they care. If they didn't care, they'd be like, oh yeah, go put that out there in the world. Let's see what happens.
It's something you hear about a lot with celebrities, especially the bigger they get, the fewer oh honey friends they have. They have a lot of people around them that just agree with everything. One of my favorite scenes in one of my favorite movies, The Fifth Element, is with right? Okay, we've all seen it, right? Ruby Rod's yes men that are around him when everything is green, and he's like, what color green? They're like, oh, any green you want, whatever green, what they're just like, so yeah, they're just so excited to be in his presence, and they just say anything he wants to hear. And so I think he's sort of taken by this person who does not care about him at all, and he's like, okay, if you guys shut up, what do you think? You know what I mean? And so that's the oh honey moment for me. But I think that it makes me sad sometimes when I see famous people who came from nothing, and they reached the highest point in their career, and then they make really dumb mistakes, and you as a viewer, as a fan, are like, what are you thinking? Like, who is around you? Nobody's there to tell you, no, don't do this thing. And obviously they don't have those people, or they're not listening to them. But yes men can be so dangerous because they play to your ego. It's all about propping up your ego instead of telling you useful, supportive information. They just say yes to whatever you want. That's a dangerous relationship to be in, I think.
Totally.
People like
that. I think that I truly believe that someone giving you feedback about how something that you are doing or did or about to do is harmful is the most loving, brave, unnecessary thing that someone in your life can do for you, because it's hard. It is so hard to tell someone that you care about, you did something that hurt me. You are doing something racist. That was homophobic. These are things that, I think that I think, so I'm a white woman, and I think especially people who are socialized as white women, to be told that you did something wrong and hurt someone in this culture is scarier than getting mugged or kicked out onto the street. It's we are socialized to believe that that is something genuinely dangerous, when in fact it's not. And it is the most it is such an act of kindness and selflessness to tell someone in your life you're fucking up, because nobody wants to hear it. So it's not going to be received well all the time. But I truly believe that it is that surrounding ourselves with people who care enough about us to want to make us better in the world is so important. Because an oh honey friend, not everyone can oh honey you about everything, so I wouldn't believe that my, I don't know, lawyer married dude friend would be a good person to oh honey me if I wanted to make a comment about queerness, right? That person might be oh honey, I think that you're not doing the right thing in this angle, and they could be completely wrong, right? They have no power to speak to something, or they might be yeah, that's great, go ahead and do it, not out of maliciousness or sycophantism, but because of just good old-fashioned ignorance. And I think it is so in terms of am I an oh honey friend, I try to be an oh honey friend to people in my areas of expertise, where I believe I can actually speak to things.
That's a really good point.
And I also think that there are places where people will ask me things and or say hey, can I run this by you? I wonder about this. And that it is also a loving act to be I think that's fine, but I don't know. I'm not the right person to ask. Ask a person of the identity that is concerned with this, ask someone who has training in X, Y, or Z. I'm as ignorant as you. So if you were to look to me and take me saying okay as a good go ahead, that's just that's not useful. Which is why I think it's so important to surround yourself with a diversity of human beings and experiences. So that when someone's oh honeying you, you can be I don't actually care what you think, you don't know about this. Or you can be you told me it was fine, but actually you don't know any more than I do. So I'm going to go to my other friend who might know more.
Right. No, but it is you said, a brave act to, sorry, Avery, it is a brave act for someone to be in the oh honey role, because you're putting, in some cases, you're putting the status of your relationship on the line by disagreeing. It could be I've always wanted to sing, I've always wanted to paint, I've always wanted to do whatever. And your friend is I don't think you should put yourself out there for whatever reason. Telling somebody that they have a passion about this thing that you don't think that they should be in, that's a huge thing to do, you know? And you see it American Idol was one of my, I'm not going to go on a rant about American Idol, but I took my sister to an audition for it. And the whole process is a mess. But when you watch the show and you see people who are up there who clearly cannot sing, but somebody in their life has been telling them their entire life that they're the best singer ever, and putting them in this position where they can be embarrassed and humiliated like that. They need oh honey people around them saying, I know you love music, there's other ways for you to be involved, this is not the way you should be involved. That's a hard thing to say to someone who really loves something and has a desire to do it. So for me, that's a brave role to take, a brave role to step into.
Well, and I love that we're talking about this when in the same episode that we had the rejection letter, because when somebody comes to you as an oh honey friend, sometimes that can feel like a deep rejection because they're telling you something that you may not want to hear, or they may be saying this is not a good idea. They may be rejecting an idea or a plan or something that you had. And that can be really hard to hear. And
Mhm.
so again, that comes down to the person receiving needs to be able to differentiate between this is somebody who cares about you and is giving you advice, whether you take it or not is you, but this person has your best, your best, what's the word I'm looking for, people? I can't do it. Your best
Interest.
self. Thank you. Your best interest. Oh my God.
What
Oh
are
my
words?
God.
It's a
Oh my
week.
God. What are words? I only use them for a living. But yes, your best interest at heart. So you need to be able to accept that and know that. But I think you also have to be able to look, because I think, and I hate to be this person, but especially in this industry or any creative industry where people perceive a scarcity, even if there is not, I do not believe there's a scarcity of readers, but there are times when sometimes people will act as an oh honey friend maliciously.
Mhm.
And I think
Oh, yeah.
sometimes that's hard as well.
Well, and
So
do you guys ever experience that where authors, newer authors, are having you read their work and want your opinion, but then when you've read it, you're like, they really need a little more craft, a little more time, maybe with some online schooling for writing. You could, I don't know. I get this a lot. Like
I was
a
going to
lot.
say, there's a huge difference between constructive criticism and rejection.
yes,
Right.
And some people can't see all criticism is
see the two.
rejection. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's a big problem, especially in creative industries. It's like,
Yeah.
You need to work on your craft, and saying that to someone, they're like, oh, well, you just, they just get really defensive and stuff.
rejected me.
You've rejected
You
them.
rejected
And
me.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think this is super interesting because one of the things that I always ask now, and it's for exactly the reason that you're talking about, Audrey, is I always say, I've read your book or looked at your movie or whatever the thing is, and I'm excited to talk to you about it. What kind of feedback are you interested in hearing?
Mm-hmm. That's good.
And
Ooh, that's really good.
I'm so stealing that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, please.
I'm like,
talk
do
about
I need to make a note? I might need a
Yeah.
note.
And sometimes I'll give people options. So I'll say, like, what kind of feedback are you interested in hearing right now based on where you are in the project? Are you interested in brainstorming ideas for the next draft? Are you interested in my reaction as a reader to your characters? Are you interested in mechanics? Are you interested in my advice for next steps going forward? Where can I be most helpful to you?
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
Because
I need you in my life.
I know, that's really
I need
brilliant.
you in my life. Can you just answer all my emails?
Yeah.
If only I could answer all my own, even.
If you responded to me that way, I would be like, she's so nice and constructive and thoughtful.
Well, and that's what's really smart about what you're doing is you're giving the person asking for the information. Number one, you're giving them control. You're helping them to set boundaries for both of you, and you're creating clear expectations on both ends, and that is crucial. Oh, that's amazing.
And I think that what's super useful about it then is, by giving someone the options, you're also previewing for them the kinds of things that you're going to say.
Mm-hmm.
And this isn't just about creative work. It could be about like an idea for a project, a relationship that they've just told you about for the first time. And I think that so for example, like with books, I always say something that includes the words "for your next draft," because right there I've dropped, without giving any positive or negative feedback, that of course you have to write another draft. That's implicit. And so they're
Brilliant.
right. And same thing with a relationship. If a friend is like I meet someone's significant other for the first time and they're like, what'd you think of them? I don't say it quite that, what kind of feedback would you like? I kind of am like, well, there were tons that I thought were really interesting about them. They reminded me a lot of like stuff we've talked about in the past about your relationships. Like, what do you want to hear first?
Yeah.
And if they say, I want to hear everything that you liked about them first, that is an indicator to me that is all they want to hear generally.
Yeah.
But if what they say is, oh, really? They have reminded you of like stuff we've talked about in the past about other relationships. That's so interesting. Then I'm like, you are ready to dissect, like, what patterns are you falling back into? What patterns are you breaking? You are in an analytical like in a place where you're open to analyze this relationship. So I feel like it really works with anything.
Yeah.
But what it does for me,
It's a really structured oh honey friend.
Yeah.
That's
it
what
really
it is.
is.
It is like structured oh honey.
But it's not mean at all.
At
It's
all.
not mean. And it's not disingenuous either, because like
Right.
I love giving people feedback actually, but I would never want to hurt someone's feelings. Like if they're
Yeah.
not interested in hearing that their stuff needs work, I don't have anything invested in being the one to tell them that, you know, like
Yeah.
it's not my job. I'm not a professional editor. Like I'm not a dating coach. And so I think that it sets it up where what you're communicating to someone is, my primary interest here is you and my relationship with you. That's what's most important to me. And therefore I want to give you feedback that's in service of helping you. And if you don't want to hear the rest of it, then like, if you don't want to hear negative things, then why would I waste either of our time?
Right.
Yeah.
Feedback as being an open friend is like, it's time consuming. I mean, reading a book is time consuming. Giving people feedback is time consuming. If you don't even want to hear like what I think would be useful to change going forward, then I'm not going to spend 5 hours of my life making notes and like doing all this prep and trying to find a way to explain it to you. Like it just saves both of us time and energy, and it doesn't,
And heartbreak.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel that is my go-to like structured way of kind of telling someone, there are lots of different ways that I could interact with you in this moment. Tell me what the thing is that you're open to hearing, so that we save ourselves both time and.
I think it's really important, not as the oh honey friend, but as the person with the oh honey friend, to know your own reactions, like your own boundaries, like you know how you respond to rejection. So like if you know you're going to flip out, you know what I mean, or you know, curl into a ball and cry or whatever, like you need to know that about yourself before you ask for advice or information or whatever from your friends, you know, so that if they say yeah, this needs work, you know how you're going to react to that, right? So I think it's important for people to do a little bit of self-examination before they go to you know, because like you said, it's time invested, and you're putting not relationship on the line, but like it could put strain on a relationship if you have this baby that you created and here you're giving it to them and they say, okay, here's my red pen, you know what I mean, and then they give it back and you're like, you hate me and everything that I do, you know what I mean, like there's got to be some self-awareness there. I think if you're going to get your,
and I think the giving someone options, it sort of lets them, like if they say they don't know themselves that well, because like I've been shocked by how unwell people seem to know themselves sometimes. But if you give them options, then at least in the moment, they have to do the thing where they're like, oh, let me communicate with myself and see what the thing is that I want.
Yeah.
And this is, I mean, it's so basic. This is also like what I used to do with friends when we would go shopping together back in the before times is, if someone's trying on clothes, I'm always like, are you after editing or enthusiasm? Like, what's the vibe? Like,
if we ever go shopping, I'm only looking for enthusiasm.
Great.
Only ever.
And that is so good to know, you know, and like there are different.
Also, I don't like going shopping with people. So I've been kidnapped if I bring you along.
Yeah.
Something
I went shopping with Roan once when we were in Paris. Remember, I wanted to buy that little tunic thing, and I could not tell whether she actually liked it, because I don't think she knew whether I was looking for editing or enthusiasm. So that it was like, but should I get it? But you know, it was so funny. But now that you said that, I look back on that and go, oh, that's totally what that was.
I think the other part with the oh honey friend discussion is, if you are a crappy oh honey friend right now, you know, because maybe you don't have the structure yet, which I think is really brilliant, it can come. Right? It is like everything else. You get better the more you practice, and it's super scary at first, but you can keep working up to it, especially if you are non-confrontational. I don't think it can be hard to see it not as a confrontation, but it's really not a confrontation. It is sending up help flares, right? And I think also there is, from the perspective of somebody who's obnoxiously blunt, and has learned to dial back on that, which I know is shocking. But I have dialed back.
Wait, there was more? No, I'm kidding.
There was a lot more. So, but learning how to do that, how to be a good oh honey friend, there's hope. And like, I have like my daughter who's like 6 inches taller than me is a mini me, in that bluntness factor. And I have to just look at her sometimes because she'll tell me something that she's doing or something she's working on or something that's going on. And I'm like, you don't have to say every thought that comes into your head, right? I'm glad you put a lot of them out, but as an Oh Honey friend, that's part of it too, is learning that what kind of feedback are you after? Do you actually not want feedback right now? Do you, do you want basically just to be able to vent to someone or to do this, but you're not interested in the feedback? That's important to know too. That's actually something I've been friends with Kim Kincaid and Robin Covington for 400 years, right? And we have a text stream that has gone back for 400 years. And that is one thing that we have learned amongst ourselves is being able to express what we're looking for. So a lot of times it'll just be rant incoming. And we know that's just a vent, right? You're not going to offer solutions. You're not going to do any of that shit. You are just going to listen, right? And sometimes it's like all of a sudden you get the word vomit and then you're like, I need help. What do I do? What do I do? And that's when you offer help. And sometimes it's what do you guys think? And that's when you have to do the Roan approach and figure out what are you looking for?
What are you looking for?
And how can I meet
love it?
Right? So it all comes down to, that communication factor. But if you are not a great Oh Honey friend now, you can be. You can grow into it.
I feel like
and if you are not good at receiving it, you can also grow into that.
Yeah. I feel like I was always saying, well, you know my heart, right? You know where my heart lies. Like I'm prefacing the fact that I'm going to crush your soul.
Right.
I love you, but
I'm going to take Roan's approach and be like, okay, what kind of feedback are you looking for?
Yeah.
How do you feel about it?
Yeah. Well, it's a great neutral way to do that.
Yes. Because I don't want to crush souls.
No,
crush anybody's soul.
Especially if it's not useful. That's the thing, right? That like I tend to have a streak of the utilitarian in me. I'm very solution oriented, and like it is so clear when some people, you might do all the work, you might tell them all the things, and you might know that you're right, but they will not be able to receive any of it. And then like there's no satisfaction in being right if it doesn't do any good for me anyway, like then it's just silly.
And knowing that you gave them that advice and they still went down the path. Yeah. And you're just like, it's like a train wreck that you tried to prevent. And you're like, oh, exactly. And then
what's funny is
they come back and go, why did you let me do that?
Yeah.
Especially if they're close friends, they're going to continue to do the same habits over and over and over again. But you love them so much that you're going to support them through it all anyways. It doesn't matter because you love them.
Oh, totally. Yeah. And there's nothing more delightful than knowing someone really well and they ask you for advice and you're like, why are you asking me for advice? You're going to do no matter what.
Whatever,
I disagree with you. So why are we going through this charade and wasting both of our time?
Right.
Which like
people have said that to me.
Well, and Avery, my version of like the dialing back is I'm so solution oriented that the second something goes wrong, my like unhealthy coping mechanism is not to feel the feelings. It's to be like, well, I can fix it. Let me figure it out. Right. And recently I had this, this like with Timmy, my girlfriend, where I was like, okay, something shitty happened. Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to down and we're going to do this and we're going to do this and we're going to do this. And she was kind of nodding and like, I'm not really taking it in. And the next day I realized like I jumped completely past the emotional place. I jumped to solutions and I went back to her and I was like, hey, I want to apologize to you because yesterday you were really going through it and I didn't ask you what you wanted. I didn't say like, do you need a hug? Do you want just like emotional support? Or do you want advice? Like I just jumped right to trying to solve the problem. And she's like the sweetest person alive. So she was like, I know you meant well. Like I knew exactly that you meant well, which is her very polite way of saying like, yeah, you did just jump right to solutions. And so now I'm like, well, I'm going to add that to my repertoire. In addition to all the other feedback things that I ask, I'm going to add like, do you want sympathy? Do you want to brainstorm? Like what can I give you right now that's best? And
how can I help you feel your best?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we are uncomfortable asking that, because especially if it's somebody you know really well, that you love, whatever it may be, that you've been friends with forever, whatever, you're like, you feel that you should know already, right? We fall back on that, I should be able to know. So sometimes we are uncomfortable about asking that, but it's important to, or to hear that when that happens.
It's also the other side of it, as a friend who is not the oh honey, oh hi kitty, is not the oh honey friend, but wants to be, has the instinct to be. I'm the family diplomat. I don't know if every family has the diplomat. I'm the diplomat in my family. I hate conflict because it's very rarely resolved, you know, when things happen. So I tend to like be the mediator or whatever. And, you know, if you're in that position in your friend's life or your partner's life or whoever it is, but you're like, I really want to say something, you know, I really want to be the oh honey person, just say, you know, I've been thinking about this thing that you're going through or whatever it is, and I'd like to talk to you about it, but I just want to know, are you open to that? You know what I mean? Are you cool with that? Am I overstepping a boundary? You know what I mean? That's a conversation you can have as well, as a friend who sees somebody going down a path or whatever's happening, and you want, but you've never had that relationship before. There's nothing wrong with initiating it or asking if they want that kind of, you know, friendship or relationship or whatever it is. So
I think that's exactly right, especially because it can be rescinded at any time.
Yeah,
like, I have friends who are sort of variable in that, and so there are times when we'll be talking about something and like we've gone deep before, and I can tell they're not into it, and so sometimes I'll just be like, "Do you want to change the subject?" And they're like, "Yeah, can we?" And I feel like that is such a like, it's, you give someone an out. Sometimes they're like, "Oh no, I'm fine. I just like didn't realize this was going to be hard to talk about or whatever." But I that is, I think, so like, if we could do nothing else on this podcast, I feel like normalizing checking in to actually just ask people what the fuck they want at that moment is like the greatest gift you can give to yourself, so that you're not accidentally like doing all this stuff that's hurting someone and not even knowing.
Giving them an in and an out.
Yeah, exactly.
But without the health code violations or the refusal to accept vaccine cards. Yes.
Yeah,
in and out. All right, and on that segue, we have you know, kind of come towards the end of our episode a little bit.
Chat. Good
so
talk.
yeah, that was really good.
Loved it.
I've like learned so much. I feel like I can take on my life now.
Roan has that effect on everyone.
Friends, how to be a good mediator, how to be a good mentor. I'm really here for this, ladies. I really appreciate all you guys have done.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us. It was a total pleasure to have you. Do you want to tell all of our listeners where they can find you, or what book you just most recently published, all that good stuff?
Okay.
Well, my cat tries to knock over everything in my
I know, he's so cute. The two major things that are going on right now is that the movie for Passion Flicks, Resisting Roots.
Oh yes, that's
finally
right.
happening. It's been like 5 years in the making.
Wow.
So we literally picked almost all the cast members. I'm telling you guys that before anybody else.
Oh, cool.
Yay.
And we'll probably, I'm sure they're going to be announcing all the details soon, where we're filming when. I'm going to be busy very late this year.
That's awesome.
That's super exciting.
That's the most exciting, I would say. And then the Marriage Auction, which is on Kindle Vella, a new platform that Amazon has created. I encourage everybody to go check it out. Not just my story, but all the stories in the platform. It's about serialized fiction. So ideally, if you've read like my Calendar Girl saga, that's huge and it's ongoing. That's the type of platform you would release something like that. An ongoing saga, a really involved paranormal saga story. Some people are just putting up books and releasing them straight through and saying complete. And it's kind of like a fun game, pay to read system. But the first 3 episodes of any story you get on there is free. And then they have Amazon's giving away free tokens because they really want to get people used to this small launch. But my story, Marriage Auctions, #1, and it has been for over a month. So I'm like freaking out.
That's amazing.
Those are my 2 big exciting moments.
Hey, celebrate both of them.
That's fucking
celebrate
fantastic.
both of them.
Where are you on social media? Are you on social media?
I'm on Facebook, Instagram. Everything's at Audrey Carlan. You can easily AUDREYCARLAN.
Perfect.
And on the TikTok, I call it the TikTok.
The TikTok.
TikTok's so hard. I'm not good at it. I just
we
post
just followed
videos.
each other. We just followed, I think,
It's
this week.
so hard. I
It
hate
is.
it. I
It-
love watching videos.
I love watching the
Yeah,
videos.
I
but
love
making
watching them.
I hate
I'm like, what does my
recording
hair
them.
look like? What am I wearing? What is
And I don't dance. I don't dance and do funny talking. And so I'm a little old school. You know, I write, I put it out there. If people like it, great. If they don't, that's okay too. I'm here to give you.
She'll take that rejection.
I will take that rejection because I've learned over years that it's okay to be me and have the stories I want to write.
Yeah,
There you go. Exactly.
the best lesson.
Yay. Thank you guys so much. I'm really excited.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. And thank you to everyone out there for hanging out with us for another episode of Dear Romance Writer. Remember, please send us in your questions. You can go to dearromancewriter.com and there's a form there, or you can hit us up on any of the social media platforms and DM us. We love hearing from you and we love getting a chance to give you some questionable advice. This trio, or actually quartet today, of happily ever after enthusiasts. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you so much for subscribing to Dear Romance Writer. Remember to keep sending in those letters at dearromancewriter.com. We can't wait to tell you what to do. Dear Romance Writer is part of the Frolic Podcast Network. Find more podcasts you'll love, frolic.media/podcast.